Good morning or good afternoon. I'm Jade Dabachek, and I'm going to be holding today your professional development via Zoom. Due to COVID-19 and our current pandemic, we will be holding or participating in our professional development for Cordillera via our Zoom session today. So thank you all for being here. And a couple of things I want to go over with you. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen at this point with you. And just give me one moment. Okay, great. So we are here and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So today's professional development is going to be us reviewing and going over really the last 2 years of data. Today's topic is teaching intervention for reading and writing. And I know that in a lot of our PLCs, we've been having this conversation a lot about data, about our school's data and what it looks like and what we're observing and learning in trends and patterns of learning with our students. So over the course of 5 years, I've shared with a lot of you that our data has changed. When I first started at Cordillera, our school on the California dashboard was an 8, almost a 9. Our students ranked, in the high percentile. But over the course of the last couple of years, and with our demographics changing, and with a lot of our students and families moving, we've seen a definite change. And so what I wanted to do is to go through with you, what does that mean and what does it look like? So, sorry, I clicked that button a little too quick. Let me go back. So today we're really going to be diving deep into the data, looking at scores, and specifically in the areas we've been working on writing for a while. It's been our problem of practice. It's been correlated to our school, one of our goals, and it had to do with students articulating their thinking. We've used a lot of different intervention material. We've all were trained about 7 years ago with Charlotte Knox. My personal favorite has always been Step Up to Writing, but it's more correlated to secondary writing. Charlotte Knox definitely is centered more on the elementary level with her rainbow writing, but still the process has been teaching kids the components of writing and how to write. So what we're going to go into now is just our agenda for today. So the first thing is we're going to establish some norms. Big chunk of our day, or the first half of our morning, is going to be reviewing CASP, the system, and state results with our data teams. So our data teams are going to be our grade level teams today. And then also at some points, we're going to be breaking into our upper elementary and our lower elementary. So we're going to be looking at specific school-wide data on our struggling readers and writers. And we're going to kind of see a correlation between what we've been doing in the classroom and what the data is saying, and then also what we haven't been doing as much in the classroom and what the data is saying. We're going to discuss options of district-wide research-based programs. So these are research-based. Anything we teach and what we do here is research-based, and that means, we're not spinning our wheels and just doing things to do it. These are proven programs that have received results, and that's what we practice. These programs have been purchased by the district, and so these are the types of resources we have available to us. And then last, we're going to review the concepts and models which will address your student population and the needs the best. And like I said, when we talk about Charlotte Knox, we're going to talk about that lower elementary level. When we go to the upper, especially our 5th and 6th grade, we're transitioning in our writing. We're not teaching them about rainbows and writing, but we might want to be taking it to the next level and the next step. Research-based for how to write a research report. We're not teaching that to a 1st grader, but we might be teaching that to a 6th grader. So those are the things we're going to do, and that'll be the last section after lunch, is we're going to be attending our breakout sessions with grade level teams. So the first slide I'd like to go into is just our norms. Be present. be here, be listening, you know, pay attention to what we're talking about. It matters to you, it matters to your kids. What are their needs and how to look for that. Because when you leave here today, the idea is not that we're just telling you something, but you're able to go back and investigate it on your own and to really see and kind of dive deep into that data of what it's telling you, of where your kids are at and where they need to go. Be respectful. Be respectful of your colleagues. Be respectful of the time. You're all professionals and you're adults. If you need to log off for a moment, feel free. But don't just blurt out and ask questions. Let's wait until we have some breakout session time. And then so we can discuss those things. Be aware. I can't stress this enough of being aware of our data results. What is our data saying? What do we need to do? Because ultimately what it means is, what do we need to change? Be an active participant in today. Engage with your teams. I might be going over things fairly quickly. You might have a lot of questions. So please go back and please review this with your teams. And if I covered something too quickly, or if I didn't, you know, go through all the steps, please make sure you go back and you look at that and you ask questions with your team. And ultimately, the last one, you know, our 5 B's today, be open to change. As education is evolving, as life, as evolution is evolving, so should we in our educational practices and as professionals in the way that we're instructing our learners. I know that we've all learned to change, primarily in the last 7 weeks out of necessity. We don't have the option of being in our classrooms with our door closed. We are virtual, we're online. And it's been a big change for some of you. And I respect that. And I appreciate even the baby steps that you're making to get there. But be open to it. What else can you do? Is there more? Is this enough for now? And if it is, that's okay. But baby steps moving forward. What are the things we can do to progress as professionals? So again, going back to, it started in our 2018, 2019, now continuing over to 2019, 2020, but a little bit, we're tweaking it a little bit. But it's been our problem of practice. Teachers will help students articulate their thinking and written expression. It's our POP, we've talked about it a lot. And what does that mean? It's that students can speak clearly to us, that we will correct them in their use of language, but then also now in their writing. From early as kinder, you know, we're addressing written language, not just spoken. So how do we know what our data means and how do we know how we're viewed? So we all know that California, this is the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. It's our CAS system here in California. And under the CAS system, we have 3 different areas or 3 different components that we are assessed and our students are assessed. So we have our science, English language arts, our ELA, and our math, which is our Smarter Balance. California has the California Science Test, which is for our 5th graders. And then we have our Spanish reading and language arts, and that's our California Spanish assessment. And those are for our language learners, students. We also know, if most of you don't, but our specialists all know, our ed specialists, that we have a California Alternative Assessment. We have it for science. We have it for English, language arts, and math. It's a California Alternative Assessment. And then it is also, we have one for our Spanish learners, but that is under a different component. But all of these assessments for Gen Ed, for special ed, our students are evaluated yearly under the California CAS system for assessments and performance. So, Cordilleras CAS results. When we're looking at our CAS results, we're going to look at 2 main factors here and why we're doing what we're doing and where we're at. So like I said, when we moved in our demographics over the past 5 years, we started on the dashboard as an 8, and I'll kind of dive into that data a little bit in a little bit, but right here we're looking at the ELA. So students, percentage of students within each assessment achievement level. So our level 4 here is students that are going to be exceeding our standards, 15.5%. Students that are at grade level, so those are our 3s, 33.57%. Students who nearly met our standards at 22.4%. 1.26, which is a big number, because if you combine these two right here, that's over 50% of our students are either nearly meeting or they're not meeting yet, or they're at standard, sorry. And then we have last is our 28.62, which is over that 0.50%. So all of us know we could round that up. And we're looking at about 29% of our standards not being met. And this does include students who are taking it, who are special ed students. It just does not include students who are taking the alternative assessment in this. All right, our next section is our math. So percent of students within each achievement level who are taking the California assessment. And this is for mathematics. So we've got 18.6% that are above standard or exceeding it. And, you know, 2 years ago, we moved to our grading systems of a 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this primarily is the rationale behind it, is that when we're looking at 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s, these are where the majority of our kiddos are falling. And these are the ones that we're either trying to get them up to meets, some of our meets to exceeds, but definitely trying to move these standards nearly met up into standards met. So when you're a 2, how family, home, and school connect to bridge these barriers here. So overall, we have 45.62 that are meeting or exceeding. And in language arts, we have 49.12 that are meeting or exceeding on our California results. Okay, so when we look at that data, what is that data telling us? Well, what it's telling us is blue is where we want to be, red is where we don't want to be. So we have declined in the last year for language arts, we have declined 14.9%, versus in math, we declined 11.2 points, or not points, but percents. So when you look at this, we have 7.1 points below standard for reading or language arts, and then we have 17.4% that are below standard, but our students are in the yellow overall, which is kind of that 3 of near, okay? So we're doing better based on this percentage. We're doing better in math as a school than we are in our reading and our writing, which anybody in the classroom right now, we know that. Okay, so I'm gonna go back for a second, because down here at the bottom, it says equity report, and it's showing us the data of, there's different subgroups, and each student group is in a color. So in math, we've got some of our subgroups in red, we've got some of our subgroups in orange, and then we've got some of our subgroups in green. This is kind of why it's showing that we're higher over here, that we've dropped more, but yet our overall in math is still higher because of our orange and our green groups versus the red. And then we'll look over here, because we don't have any in red in our ELA, but we're going to kind of look at why we're still yellow here and orange here, because we don't want to be orange, we'd rather be in the middle. Okay. So for our math results here, these are 5 student subgroups. We've got no in red, we've got our orange is our English learners, our Hispanic, or socio-disadvantaged, and then we also have students with disabilities. And then in our green category, we have no students in our yellow, and we have our white population, white students who are in our green. Our dashboard for math comparison shows that our 3rd grade, if you look at all grade levels, blue is where we want to be. 6th grade has over the 75%, so over that 25% that are exceeding grade level standards for 2018-19 school year. 5th grade was almost, but we're kind of seeing a little, if you will, slope of learning. Our 4th grade had the highest percent of students that were near, and our 3rd grade had the highest amount that were not standards that were not met, and the fewest of standards that exceeded. 4th grade, 3rd grade last year, which is our 4th grade this year, because these were last year's kids, these are this year's kids. These sixth graders are now over at intermediate school, but each one of these has rolled over into the next year because it's last year's data. So yay, sixth grade, we're proud of you, but now look at what you had coming in versus what you had going out last year. The good thing for sixth grade is there's a large amount here of students that are near standard that could be easily swayed over and up, and a lot of them that are at exceeds are at met standards that we could get to exceeds. When you look at your fourth grade data that are now fifth graders, fifth grade, this is where you're looking. I'm circling it for you because you're actually looking at last year's fourth graders. Those students and also last year's third graders, we both have a very low percent of kiddos who were in that exceeds. Now, third grade view definitely sent over to fourth grade a large chunk of kiddos who were standards were met. So fourth grade, we need to get some more of those met standards up to exceeds to bump up that blue. And then we definitely have a good chunk of kiddos right here that we could get nearly met up to standards met. And we definitely have some work cut out for us fourth grade because we did have the largest amount across all grade levels coming from third grade of students who were standards not met in math, okay? And this is just all grades combined for our school site and what it looks like at our school. Okay. So grade level results for math, when we're looking at this, we're definitely gonna be going into now each grade level. So here's your mean score, your scaled score of what the overall for 2016, 2017, 2018. And the good thing is when you're looking at this, everything's going up in math. So we definitely have changed in our demographics. We know that our students, we have a lot more language learners coming in, and we know that we've got, you know, some more challenges to face. But the good thing is that we're seeing is that our students are progressing. The only thing that we have more of a concern right here, standards nearly met, it was at 32, is that one is dropping. And then we've got our data down here that this part is rising. So we have more that are standards not being met in our twos and our ones. That gap is changing a lot. And so that's where we're gonna have to kind of focus over the next couple of years for our math. But overall, we're still doing fairly, you know, better in that area than we are in our ELA and our specifically in our reading and writing. Okay, so right here we have a comparison. We just reviewed this data for our math over here on the right. And how do we know that's our math? Well, we've got our math over here. And then we've got our, over here on the right, this is gonna be our students, our ELA data. So here's our 5 subgroups over here. And now we're gonna be going into looking at the comparison of these two charts. Okay, ELA results. So last year, many of you know, we had a few factors in special education, one being that we had a teacher only for a month and a half in our upper grade 4, 5, 6 special ed classroom. So we definitely took a hit. We last year did not have our students with disabilities in the red. We had them in the orange. And so the data speaks, and we definitely saw that affected our students and the outcomes of our CASP ELA scores. Most of you know we did have a credentialed teacher in there, but we had a long-term sub for a good 8 months in that classroom. And so that made a huge, we can see there was a, you know, a big gap from the previous year of student performance. We do look at our chart here to see that our orange, we have our English learners, we have our Hispanic and our socio-disadvantaged in the orange, and then we still have our white subgroup that is in the green. Okay, so when we're moving on to dive deep into this data, this is where we're gonna start, you know, we know what this dashboard ELA results means now, but the danger that we're seeing here in our growth trends, as we're looking at 2018, we're getting to a place where we're nearly at 50% of our kids are not meeting standards in reading and in writing. Fourth grade, it's not doing much better. Fifth and sixth grade, we definitely had a smaller gap for our standards not being met in reading and writing. But what is kind of, a little concerning is how few we had for fifth, now our new sixth graders, for standards that are exceeding versus standards that are just being met. So now when we dive into this data, and we're going to do a specific look, because our trend and our pattern of learning and teaching for our students, our student learning teaching patterns for teachers, is we're looking at our scores. So we are a K-6 school, so that's why we have NA for grades 7, 8, and through 11. But it's our overall chart here for all our grades. So when we're looking at percentages for reading, kind of just want to do a up and down here. 13% are above in reading, 12% are above in writing. If you look down, you have 55.3% are near in reading, 33.85 in near in writing.